So I talk a lot about relationship residue, about loving without your past. And I want to get into this a little bit. So after you swim past the breakers are, swimming past the breakers means to swim past not only the honeymoon phase and the infatuation, but swimming past the contrast, right? When things get hard, because that's when love starts, when things get hard. When you have dopamine shooting into your brain from exploring new bodies and stories, and the feeling of someone kissing you back, when that fades. And then what enters are different love languages and dirty socks on the floor and, everything that triggers us, right? So as you swim past all that and start to build a healthy relationship, the next thing you have to do is start loving without your past. And what I mean by that is being aware of the residue from previous love experiences and actively trying to scrape that shit, trying to dissolve that. Because if you don't, what you're doing is you're carrying other relationships into your current relationship, which will then keep that relationship stuck and you stunted. All right, so just because you're not thinking about your ex doesn't mean you're not carrying some kind of residue from that love experience, right? Usually it's subconscious, running underneath, and that's why we're not aware of it most of the times. So first we must be aware, we must bring that into the light, investigate, explore, and then follow that thread down, find out where it comes from, and finally work on it, right? Processing it, dissolving it. And that is not something you can do by yourself. You could have revelations and you could process some stuff, but at the end of the day, you got to talk to a therapist. You got to get in the room, to really heal from a lot of wounds. It's that kind of process. Anyway, I want to give you some things that may be rippling from the old. Number one, the relationship dance you had with your ex. So every relationship has a dance, right? There is a syncing up, there is banter, there is a back and forth, right? And many people, we try to trace an old dance that we had in previous relationships. And the thing is, everyone's different, so your relationship is going to be different, right? Yes, you are the same. Actually, hopefully you're not. Hopefully you are different as well. Hopefully you've grown. But your partner, because this person is new, is bringing different chemistry, a different dynamic, a different dance into this relationship. If you hold old relationships and keep that the standard, it's not fair to this new relationship, right? It's impossible for you to have the same dynamic in this relationship than a previous one because you're with someone different. So letting go of that relationship dance, creating space for a new one. If you find yourself tracing the old relationship dance, you are putting a fence around this relationship and not allowing the relationship to have its own unique dance. All right, another one, old love blueprints. I talk about blueprints a lot. It's a word I use often, especially because it comes from my own story. Holding on to old love blueprints, whether they are passed down from your parents, or they may be old because they're blueprints that you created that are no longer honest to you, right? And so you're still keeping those in your back pocket, and they are from the past. They are residue from the past. Old blueprints, any blueprints are usually lined with shoulds, right? With blueprints comes our own definitions, and with definitions, we have a specific idea on, how someone should love us, what someone should wear, what someone should eat, what intimacy looks like or should look like, what sex should look like. And so a lot of this if we hold on to, we're not creating space for new definitions, right? And if you don't have new definitions, you're probably not going to create new love experiences. And so your new relationship can be like your old relationship. And I'm not saying that in a good way. I'm saying that you may be repeating unhealthy patterns because you have the same definitions of love. Another one, anger and resentment. If you have loved, you have been hurt. If you have not resolved this hurt in some way, there's a good chance you are still harboring this anger, which then turns into resentment. And this resentment, whether you know it or not, is affecting your current relationship. How you ask, however you were hurt before, will make the stove hot, right? And you will not want to touch that stove, even if you know logically it's not on. So, for example, say your ex-boyfriend, the one that the one that you thought you were going to marry and have beautiful kids with, cheated on you in college, but you never really processed any of it, and you just pushed it down and moved on to your next relationship as fast as you could. And of course, that one didn't work out either. And you just kept moving on without processing or starting the journey of forgiveness. That is still there. That is still inside you. And so in this new relationship, if there's any hint of possible dishonesty or infidelity, for example, if he doesn't text you back or call you within a certain amount of time, that can be triggering, and you may overreact or jump to conclusions, right? And so that's a very simple example, but this happens all the time in relationships. And so we're living in panic. We are living in the past because we have not resolved the past, right? So anger, resentment, any feelings that you have from previous relationships, it's your responsibility to start resolving that stuff, start healing from it. If you don't, you're just bringing it in to your next relationship. Imagine if two people bring in their old wounds, anger, resentment, old blueprints, old definitions, right? And their old relationship dance. So imagine if everyone is bringing that to the table. It's a clusterfuck. Like, what are you building? It's just rubble. It's stuff. Here's what I see: a building that has collapsed. And instead of starting over and building on a new foundation, the dream house that you want, you're taking parts of something old and trying to piece them together and recreate something that didn't work in the first place, right? The last one, and I'll make it quick because I'm trying to keep these short, is beliefs that you formed about yourself because of your previous relationship. Say you were in a toxic or abusive relationship. Say there was a character assassination. Say there was space that was unsafe. Well, you came out of that relationship with a lot of false and limited beliefs about yourself. And so you're bringing that into the next relationship. So that's another thing that falls under the umbrella of relationship residue that you have to work on. So you're not bringing that into your new relationship, right? Creating new beliefs about yourself, dissolving old ones, right? That is your responsibility. All right, thank you for listening or watching. Love without your past. It's the only way to love.